let's look at the year that was. We've had quite a good crop when it comes to wheat and maize in South Africa. Wheat prices globally have been rallying. We've seen various reforms from a regulatory perspective with the Water Act and, of course, coming through with land rights as well. So give us an indication of what has been happening so far this year, whether we're in a good space.
Well, this year, in principle, prices were a little bit down because of the strength of the exchange rate. So everybody was a little bit worried about what's going to happen there, but luckily volumes made up for the drop in the price. So all of that went actually quite well going forward. We also, with a lot of changes within Africa itself happened, is we actually lost our export markets to Africa to a large extent because of our farmers migrating up into Africa. And now also producing surpluses in Zambia and everywhere. So we've lost some of that export market. So we've got to change our strategy a little bit to deep sea exports in terms of the way further future. So there's quite optimism currently that the volumes did make up for the price losses. So it's actually went quite well, especially for the livestock sector, which are making money. Like it's actually printing money, to be quite honest with you, because of the lower grain prices. They've got the gains because feed prices are down so much.
And of course, this being passed to the consumer. You mentioned something interesting, saying that we need to secure new export markets and saying that we have lost a lot of that business to other African countries as we do see things recovering extensively. Some say that the wheat prices and the maize prices in South Africa could be depressed well into 2011 with a stronger rand and the fact that we keep losing business to other more competitive nations. Is that going to be a reality?
Yes, it is true in the sense that prices can be depressed, but they will be very close to export parity prices because we're producing surpluses. Maybe wheat is the opposite around that, where we're a net importer of it. But in principle, if you really look at where international prices are at a very high level currently, trading maize at more than $230 per ton. So it means that we're much higher than we were ever in the past. So international prices are quite strong. It's purely the exchange rate pushing us down currently, and that's the one that's playing havoc with us on the domestic side of it. And because 70% or 60% of the price in South Africa is determined by the outside world.
So we're basically a price taker.
We're a price taker in that sense.
Well, looking at the livestock scenario, you're saying that we're basically printing money. So we're seeing some good things happening there. Do you see that set to continue going forward? And you also said that many farmers, we're losing farmers to other African countries because it's just the input costs in South Africa are starting to become a very big problem. Do you see that perhaps affecting the demand-supply scenario?
I think it's more the uncertainty around the policies that are out our government currently creating an unstable environment for agriculture to flourish. I think if we get some stabilization in terms of the policies around it so that we can create this environment for agriculture to flourish and everybody's comfortable with the outcome of that, I think you'll get the investment back into agriculture, because I don't think it's not a profitable industry. I think it's quite profitable currently. It is just the environment becomes a little bit erratic in terms of if you've got green papers on land reform and everything else floating around, which is written in a very aggressive stance to agriculture. So it's not that it's a negative stance, it's just an aggressive stance. So sometimes people feel uncomfortable, and that's why they're moving to Africa to a large extent.
And land reform is, of course, top of the agenda when it comes to government and transformation. So that is also going to play out.
Yes, it's definitely for the next year. I think land reform is the one that we've got to sort out extensively in South Africa. So 2011 is going to be the year of land reform, so that we get clear directions, what's going to happen, where are we going. But even the green paper as it is quite positive in the sense that it aims to unlock the potential for barren land to be unlocked and become economically viable again.
Going forward, I mean, looking at international farming subsidies, that has been one of the big hindrances to the growth of the agricultural sector in Africa.
To some extent, no, and some extent, yes. I think subsidies are always negative because it takes away the competition in the sense that you can't compete. But if you really look at Africa, I think the development in Africa itself is more an infrastructure play than a production play. I think Africa's got the potential to produce quite extensively, but it's more the infrastructure side of it. In other words, now we've produced it, and Zambia is a very good example currently, where Zambia prices for maize is so depressed that farmers are actually going bust again. Although the potential is there, they can't export it because there's no infrastructure to export it. So as mining takes off, as development takes off in Africa, I think that will unlock to a large extent.
Looking at the cost curve long term in the agricultural sector, we're looking at around 3% per annum. That said, net farm income has increased substantially over the past decade or so. Do you see that remaining the trend?
Yes, definitely. I see profits continuously, or net farm income increasing over time. And that is due to technology to a large extent. In other words, profitability and productivity has increased quite substantially over time. And that's purely because with the fact that we can read the gene, we can be so much faster in terms of our selection processes. We can bring new cultivars to play in this new market. Where it previously took us 7 years to put a cultivar in play, it now takes us about 18 months to bring a new cultivar to play. And that's the one that's driving the high production values, and that means that there is a lot more profitability in the industry.
Price risk trends that could emerge into 2011, and also looking at some of the challenges that you think we're going to face in South Africa in the agricultural sector.
Internationally, I think prices are high enough to pull us through the whole scenario. So it is purely an exchange rate game that we're playing currently. And that will depend on Europe to a large extent to what's going to happen there. If there's a little bit more comfort around there, and we might be a little bit on the weaker side in terms of prices, because then the exchange rate will strengthen. If there's a little bit more uncertainty being developed there, then maybe there will be a little bit of a blowout, and that will give us some relief in terms of pricing. Production-wise, volume-wise, it's been noted that we expect a good rain season. It's been a little bit patchy in the beginning stages currently, but I think as we settle down, it normally is a little bit patchy if they forecast a wet season, and I think it will settle down quite nicely. So I think at the end of the day, volumes will make up for price again, and I think we'll have a good season.